So with this, I want to jump into the subject matter, and let me put our Provo on the spot with the somewhat provocative question. Is the university the right place to pursue these questions, and how so? Thank you.
So, thank you for having me. It's a real honor and a pleasure to participate in this important discussion, and I take seriously, I think the remarks that Alex Trebek led us off with, that we need to take this question very seriously. So I would say, is the university the right place to pursue these questions? Absolutely. How so? That's the more complex question. So in about 3 minutes, I'm going to try to summarize just a few tight points, and then hopefully we'll come back to some of these questions. I come here certainly as an administrator. No matter where I go on this campus, I can no longer just be a researcher. I stand for the university, and I stand behind the university, and I hope sometimes I'll stand also in front of the university on these questions. But I'm also here as a researcher, and I think we're always marked by the lens, by our disciplinary lens. And so as a humanist, I would say I'd like to frame my remarks with sort of the title, In Praise of Ambiguity. And so I think we live in times where universities are under threat. This is, I don't think I need to rehearse the reasons why universities are under threat, but I think we can't take that lightly, but nor can we use that as an excuse. I think, we don't want to, sort of say, universities are under threat, and so therefore, you need to fund us better. That's not what I'm here to say. I think we need to honor and respect and serve the privilege that it is to spend time, in places like this where we actually have the opportunity to think. And I just can't emphasize that enough. For me in my career, when I do acknowledgements for a book, I say the first thing that I'm grateful for here is the opportunity to think, and we should take that seriously. I think we're in a time where we can say that very often you hear the phrase, if you're not with us, you're against us. And that tells me that that's a sort of a binary understanding of what truth is and what knowledge is, and what positions we hold. I'm hoping that we're here to complicate that. As a humanist and a literary scholar, I would say that ambiguity is very important to me. It makes me certainly very nervous when I think we're looking for the truth with a capital T. I'm much more interested in questions of interpretation, of complexity, forms of meaning making. What does that mean? How do we find meaning? How do we create meaning? And I would conjecture that for me, my various truths emerge in the gaps between what we can say is knowledge or evidence or things that we purport to know. So one of the things I want to get out here right away, and I hope, Marc, that you're looking at the time and will cut me off or give me the evil look. One of the things that I think is going to shake the foundations of universities in the future is in fact what we might call indigenous knowledge or indigenous ways of learning and knowing that there are as many ways of learning and knowing as there are nations. And so that's a broad topic, and I'm guessing that my colleague Pierrot is willing to speak about that to some degree. But where the very foundations of a critical thinking and those frameworks that are the foundations of these institutions are going to be called into question. Thank goodness, because we're here to question. But I think I look forward to those debates as I think they're going to take hold much more. I'm just going to mention one more thing, and that is about skills and competencies. So putting on my other hat here, I was for many years responsible for the teaching and learning portfolio at my previous institution, and I spent a lot of time thinking about skills and competencies and what is commonly viewed as a skills gap in the media and the press, the popular press. I do think, as much as I'm all over, open forums for free-thinking thought and, vast kind of soupy kind of messiness around that, I also think we have to be very deliberate about how we're going about this with our students. We talk about hard skills and soft skills, human skills, etc., technical skills. Personally, I'm very interested in sustainable skills. And I do think that the skills of critical thinking, problem solving, and communication are sustainable skills, and that we as universities are best placed to really put emphasis on that. And just to put a little bit of a framework around this, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time working with is the value rubrics. Value stands for Valid Assessment of Learning in Undergraduate Education, developed by the Value Institute in the United States, the same people that developed the NSSE score, National Survey of Student Satisfaction, student engagement rather. And I just want to point out their definition of critical thinking is as a habit of mind characterized by the comprehensive, that is, deliberate and purposeful exploration of ideas, artifacts, and events before formulating an opinion or conclusion. And so we can go about this, and we can talk about every discipline having their own notion of critical thinking, but really, truthfully, being very deliberate in how we go about that in the formation of our programs, and also the assessment of that. I think it's extremely important. And then, just as a very final kind of last point, I'll say that in my work as a university administrator, I've had to set aside some of my research ambitions. And for me, one of the ways in which I've been able to sort of make peace with that is by saying to myself, I always want to be going ahead with my service or administrative work with the same kind of rigor that I would bring to the research that I do. That means using frameworks and models and doing evaluation as often as possible to make sure that that we're actually doing what we say we're doing. So there, that's my bow.
Thank you so much, Jill. That sets us off really well, and also provides a segue to Piero, who would I like